The day I was reborn was the very day Yan Wanshu entered our household. She was an orphan, taken in by my mother as a goddaughter, and in time, she would take everything from me. In my past life, I was forced to go in her place for a political marriage, wed to a man who had always loved her from afar. I endured every humiliation imaginable, until at last I threw myself from the city wall and died a broken death in a foreign land. Now, seeing her again, Yan Wanshu cowered behind my mother and peeked out at me with feigned timidity. Sister, I am Wanshu. I curled the corner of my lips. What stray whelp is this, daring to call this princess sister? The agony of leaping from a city wall, every bone in one's body shattering upon impact, that is not a pain easily forgotten. And yet, on the very first day of my return to life, I had to witness Yan Wanshu clinging to my mother's arm as the two of them entered the manor together. Intimate as kin. That was a far worse torment. Yan Wanshu had been picked up by my mother on the road back to the capital after visiting my maternal grandfather. Though her features had yet to fully mature, her beauty was already breathtaking, a rare and striking loveliness. In my previous life, on the day she entered the manor, I had already received the imperial edict and left with several other noble daughters for Tianyun Temple, where I was to remain in seclusion for half a year to pray for the ailing dowager empress. I left the manor that morning. Yan Wanshu arrived that afternoon. We missed each other entirely. By the time I returned 6 months later, she had already become the beloved fourth miss of the household. My stern father treated her with uncharacteristic warmth. My mother, who had never shown much affection to her own children, doted on her with unusual indulgence. My elder brother called her little sister morning and night. Even my own residence, Shanhua Pavilion, had been given over to her. At the welcoming banquet held in my honor, my mother spoke in a tone that was gentle yet brooked no argument. Your Honor, Wanshu has a frail constitution, and Shanhua Pavilion has a hot spring. As her elder sister, you should yield the courtyard to her. I have already ordered a new residence prepared for you. My father said nothing. My elder brother, without missing a beat, picked up his chopsticks and placed a piece of food on Yan Wanshu's plate. She who sat with her head bowed, looking meek and pitiable. Yan Wanshu cast a timid glance in my direction. I gripped my chopsticks until my knuckles went white. 6 months away, and you have not a single word of concern for your own daughter. Mother? What nonsense is this? My mother's brows drew together in a sharp frown. It seems that your time in seclusion has done nothing to cure your headstrong nature. If anything, it has only taught you to defy your elders. The accusation of filial impiety was laid at my feet, and the meal could not continue. I left the dining hall first. A few steps out, I heard a trembling, tearful voice from behind. Mother, please give Shanhua Pavilion back to sister. It was hers to begin with. Please do not blame her. Perhaps it was because of my rebirth, but on this day, I collapsed before I could even board the carriage to Tianyun Temple. I lost consciousness entirely. In the manor's front hall, I had just finished my medicine, the bitter taste still lingering on my tongue, when my mother returned with Yan Wanshu in tow. My mother, whom I had not seen in over a month, looked at me and pressed a hand to her chest in feigned surprise. You grow lazier by the day. Relying on your father's influence, you dare to defy an imperial edict. My father was the prince of Jinan, not of imperial blood, but a man who had carved out the Wang family's fortune with his own hands on the battlefield. Because of him, I had been granted the title of commandery princess at a young age. When my father took the entire family to guard the border, I alone was left behind in the palace. I was raised at the Dowager Empress's knee, nominally under her tutelage. In truth a hostage. I was taught neither poetry nor propriety. A child too young to understand the world could not escape the palace's webs of intrigue. Day after day, I was spoiled into ruin, ground down over 7 long years. I had once longed for my family's return to the capital, dreamed of basking in my parents' love. But in the end, I became the outsider in my own home. When Great Qi was defeated in battle, I was forced to take Yan Wanshu's place in a political marriage to a foreign kingdom. I had no one to rely on, imprisoned in a prince's manor, swallowing blood along with my teeth. And yet, in those humiliating days, I found a mentor, I found a true friend. Though in the end we lost by a single misstep, and though I died a spectacular death, those years were far more vivid than this life of swallowing every slight in silence. My mother demanded to know why I was still in the manor. My gaze passed over her and settled on Yan Wanshu. She was slender and delicate, the very picture of a frail beauty in the making. My mother took Yan Wanshu's pale, slender wrist and introduced her. This is my goddaughter. She will be living in the manor from now on. Yan Wanshu's eyes were bright and luminous, perpetually misted as if by an innate haze. Sister, I am Wanshu. I tilted my head, a faint smile playing on my lips. What stray whelp is this, daring to call this princess sister? My words were harsh, and my mother immediately scolded me, her tone thick with the pain of disappointment. Mother, I turned to her. Do you not smell the medicine in this hall at all? The bitter, cloying scent of herbs filled my nostrils, reminding me over and over that my mother truly did not care for me. She adored Yan Wanshu without reason, yet she could not even see the pallor on her own daughter's face. Yan Wanshu gently tugged at my mother's sleeve. My mother, startled from her daze, finally came to her senses. You are ill? Has the manor physician seen you? I sank back into my chair and raised a hand to my still throbbing head. I sent someone with the household token to the palace to invite an imperial physician. My mother sighed. If it is only a minor ailment, why trouble the inner palace? Your temperament truly has been spoiled. Indeed, it had been spoiled. But that was precisely what the nobles in the palace wanted, for me to be arrogant, disobedient, and empty-headed. My illness struck with such force that I missed the appointed time to enter the temple and pray for the Dowager Empress. The imperial physician prescribed several courses of medicine, saying that I was suffering from emotional agitation and stagnant qi *, that I needed careful and patient recuperation. *Qi, vital life energy in traditional Chinese medicine. When the emperor heard of this, he excused me from the period of purification. My mother took Yan Wanshu to stay at a Buddhist temple on the outskirts of the capital. With distance between us, we were temporarily at peace. The early spring rain fell in an unbroken drizzle, continuing well into the night. I lit a candle and leaned by the window to watch the rain. Through the pattering sound, a blue figure carrying an oilpaper umbrella made its way toward the house. The folded umbrella slid to the ground by the door, bringing with it the damp chill of the rain. Before I could see his face, I heard his voice. Yuaner, I've brought you hay pastries. Second brother, your robe is wet, mind you don't catch cold. The weather is warming. It's nothing. Second brother stepped inside, pulling a square of oiled paper from his breast pocket. The paper, once neat and square, was now crushed and misshapen. There was no need to unwrap it, one could already imagine the sorry state of the pastries within. Second brother gave an embarrassed slap to his forehead. I got jostled while hurrying through the rain. I'll buy you fresh ones tomorrow. I was the only one who remembered my fondness for hay pastries. The pastry shops south of the city made the best in the capital, and second brother would always bring me some on his way back from the drill grounds. I looked at the pastries on the low table, but what flashed before my eyes was a blood-stained letter bearing news of his death. Fallen in battle. No remains recovered. My wedding procession passed through the very place where he had died, and I could not even descend from the carriage to pay my respects. My heart ached as if wrapped in thorny brambles. Even drawing a breath sent spasms of pain through my chest. Yuaner, what's wrong? Second brother waved a hand before my eyes. You look unwell. Second brother was always sincere, a man of genuine warmth. He thought I was upset because our mother had taken in a goddaughter, and he racked his brain trying to console me. I took a bite of the crushed pastry, then shoved a piece into second brother's mouth to stop his stream of reassurances. My mother was cold to me, and no less cold to my two brothers. I remembered when second brother had been wounded in the military camp, our mother had only glanced at him, without so much as a single question. The affection I had craved and never received, second brother had never received either. It was not for him to comfort me. Second brother, his mouth full of pastry, looked around the room and spoke indistinctly. Why do you have so many candles lit? It's bright as day in here, how can you sleep? I saw him reach for the candles and froze. My voice sharp. Don't touch them. Second brother's hand halted in midair, his face full of confusion. I swallowed hard. Second brother. I'm tired. You should go back now. Oh, all right. After he left, the room fell silent once more. I lay prostrate over the desk, as if I were back in the Sixth Prince's manor in the southern Yu capital. One by one, the servants who had accompanied me for the marriage died before my eyes. The entire courtyard was plunged into darkness, leaving only blood mixed with mud, a sticky, clinging sensation that had become the nightmare of my years. That was the welcome gift from the Sixth Prince of Southern Yu. He poured all his hatred for the great Qi imperial family and all his resentment over his unrequited love onto me. Because I was stubborn and refused to acknowledge Yan Wanshu as my sister, my mother grew increasingly displeased with me. At first, I kept to my courtyard on the pretext of illness. Later, when I had recovered somewhat, I began to visit the Dowager Empress in the palace every few days. By not meeting, I could avoid conflict. At the beginning of the 5th month, as summer heat approached, I was in the imperial garden cutting fresh flower branches for the Dowager Empress when I noticed a line of eunuchs hurrying past in the direction of Changxin Palace. What's all the bustle about? I asked casually, cradling a bundle of blue and pink hydrangeas. Your Highness, the Southern Yu have sent their 6th prince, Yan Su, as a hostage. These men are to prepare his residence. Changxin Palace was remote and desolate. Abandoned for many years, it would take considerable effort to clean. I withdrew my gaze and handed the flowers to my maid. You go ahead. I'll pick some more. After the maid left, I took a familiar detour to Luhua Hall. In terms of isolation, Luhua Hall and Changxin Palace were evenly matched. The Great Hall was vast and empty, carrying a chill even as summer set in. At a crude desk within, someone was buried in study. He looked up at the sound of my footsteps. Yuan Jie? Wei Lingyou's eyes lit up. He set down his brush and came toward me. Jie. Older sister, standing an arm's length away. I produced the pill I had spared no expense to obtain over the past days. This contains a venomous worm. Once swallowed, it must be suppressed with medicine every month. Otherwise, the blood will gradually dry up and death will follow. Wei Lingyou took the pill as though it were some novel toy, his smile never fading. Why did Yuan Jie choose me? Because I had no other choice. That was a harsh truth. Wei Lingyou was a choice made out of desperation. He was the posthumous son of the deposed crown prince, left to fend for himself in Luhua Hall, barely clinging to life. The current emperor grew increasingly muddled with age. His princes were cruel and inept. The court was consumed by factional infighting. Great Qi's foundations were like rotting wood infested with worms. Later, it would be forced to cede territory and pay indemnities to Southern Yu. Wei Lingyou had inherited not only the deposed crown prince's fine features but also his keen intelligence. In this palace, Wei Lingyou was like a pearl hidden in dust. We had no connection in my past life. He fell ill and received no treatment. By the time I left Tianyun Temple, he had already been dead for over a month. In this life, on my way out of the palace one night, I happened upon a young eunuch who had been beaten half to death for pleading on Wei Lingyou's behalf. I detoured to Luhua Hall and saved his life. He wanted to live, and I happened to need a blade with a legitimate claim. I told him the truth. Wei Lingyou only laughed. His overly wide robe swayed with his thin frame. Daylight from outside the hall fell across both of us, light and shadow interwoven. Wei Lingyou, still smiling, held my gaze as he put the pill in his mouth. A moment later, his back arched and he sank slowly to the floor. Veins began to rise on his forehead. His breathing grew heavier. The venomous worm entering the body was no easy ordeal. I let the kneeling Wei Lingyou grip my wrist. He looked pitiful like this, but only through such means could I bring myself to trust him, even a little. He left red marks on my wrist. After a long moment, Wei Lingyou lifted his head and spoke haltingly. Now you can tell me what you need me to do. Kill someone for me. I slipped a note into Wei Lingyou's robe. These are a few contacts I have in the palace. You may use them. Who? The 6th Prince of Southern Yu, Yan Su. This was a test that both of us understood. I wanted to see how sharp this blade of mine was. And more than that, I wanted to bind him irrevocably to my cause. Wei Lingyou regained some strength. His hand reached up, brushing away the hydrangea petals that had clung to my collar. They fell silently into his palm. He smiled his assent. All right. I lowered my gaze, my tone unreadable. Aren't you going to ask why I want him dead? If Unauthorized doesn't want him to live, then he must have been in the wrong. In my past life, Su had fallen for Yan Wanshu at first sight. After that single glimpse, she had secretly slipped him a few pieces of pastry wrapped in a handkerchief, and Su had been utterly smitten. When Great Qi was defeated, Su, who had already returned to southern Yu, demanded that Yan Wanshu, who by then bore the title of Commandery Princess, marry him. Because Yan Wanshu refused, and because Su's love went unrequited, he grudgingly let her go. They later used the pretext of incompatible birth charts to replace the marriage candidate with me. My second brother died defending our land. My eldest brother, in order to protect his beloved Yan Wanshu, pushed me forward in her place. At the memory, my temples throbbed. By the time I left the palace, dusk was falling. The setting sun stretched my shadow long and solitary. The countless stone steps outside Xi'an Palace were equally desolate. The deputy director of the Astronomical Bureau was being led toward the main hall of Xi'an Palace. He nearly collided with me and hurriedly bowed. Greetings, Princess Yongkong. Rise, Master. I paused. You've come at a good time. The Dowager Empress is in fine spirits today. The deputy director wiped theatrically at his brow, though no sweat was there, and stepped aside to make way for me. When I reached the bottom step, I turned and glanced back at the towering palace behind me. By now, the deputy director would have seen the Dowager Empress. I suspected her spirits were no longer so fine. Bathed in orange twilight, I climbed into the carriage home. We had not traveled halfway when a household servant stopped the carriage in haste. Your Highness, urgent news, the second young master has fallen ill. The prince has sent this servant to the palace for an imperial physician. Please hurry back at once. I threw open the carriage curtain, a shrill ringing in my ears. What do you mean? Second brother suddenly fell ill? The second young master sustained some minor injuries at the drill grounds this afternoon. After returning to the manor, he developed a high fever and broke out in a rash. He is now delirious with fever. The curtain twisted in my grip, ruined beyond repair. External wounds, high fever, rash. These symptoms were the same as those my mother had suffered in my past life, a scratch from tending flowers and plants, followed by fever and rash, nearly costing her life. I had personally gone to the palace to summon a physician for her back then. Yan Wanshu had stayed at her bedside and used her own blood to save her. Deeply moved, my mother had entered Yan Wanshu's name into the family genealogy and had my father petition for a commandery princess title for her. I, meanwhile, was scolded for being unfilial because I had returned too late. At the time, even I had been moved by Yan Wanshu's pale, haggard appearance. But now, the same symptoms had fallen upon my second brother. I leaped from the carriage, cut the horse's harness with my dagger, seized the reins, and galloped toward the manor. The wind howled past my ears, and the killing intent in my chest surged like a tidal wave. I arrived at the perfect moment, just in time to see a maidservant feeding second brother his medicine. A crowd surrounded his bed. Yan Wanshu leaned against my eldest brother, her forearm wrapped heavily in bandages. Seeing me return, my father beckoned me over and told me that second brother's sudden illness had been perilous. Had it not been for Yan Wanshu's ancestral remedy, her willingness to let her blood into the medicine, he might not have survived. I pushed through the crowd, bent over the bed, and felt second brother's forehead. After one bowl of medicine, his fever had not yet broken, but the rash had already subsided significantly. This time, we owe it all to Wanshu. My mother exhaled in relief. My prince, I wish to have Wanshu entered into the ancestral hall and the family genealogy. From this day forward, she shall be my true daughter. My father's expression softened, and he seemed about to agree. My eldest brother looked at Yan Wanshu with quiet satisfaction. Multiple gazes converged, finally landing on me. I wiped second brother's sweat with a handkerchief. My voice flat. Mother may do as she wishes. Yan Wanshu's eyes glistened with unshed tears. Her limpid gaze shimmering. Sister. Sister has finally accepted me. I thought you would never like me. Because I am too dull and foolish. Entering the genealogy was a grave matter. Entering the ancestral hall required an auspicious date. While they were still selecting the date, the Dowager Empress sent word from the palace. The Astronomical Bureau had advised that someone in the Wang household was clashing with my birth chart. That was why I had suddenly collapsed before departing for Tianyun Temple to pray for the Dowager Empress. And why the Dowager Empress herself had been plagued with minor ailments for months. The Dowager Empress had been skeptical at first, but when second brother fell gravely ill, she was alarmed. She dispatched someone from the palace the very next day. The eunuch who delivered the message bowed low and spoke cautiously to my father. My prince. Princess Yongkang was raised under the Dowager Empress's own eye. She is a treasure to her grace. The Dowager Empress has merely ordered Miss Yan confined to the Buddha Hall. This is already an act of great mercy. Confined to the Buddha Hall, with no date set for her release. She would have to copy the Heart Sutra 100 times daily. Her arms would surely give out before long. Our Dowager Empress had always been so merciful. After the eunuch left, Yan Wanshu's face drained of color. She bit her lip and looked helplessly at my eldest brother. He patted her back gently, then turned to me and said, after some deliberation, Your Honor, the matter of birth charts is not always reliable. Why not go to the palace and beg the Dowager Empress for leniency? Not reliable? Then why? In my past life, had my eldest brother taken the birth chart as absolute truth and submitted a memorial pressing for me to take Yan Wanshu's place in the marriage alliance? Did he truly believe the Dowager Empress was concerned that Yan Wanshu might harm me? I spoke evenly. The Dowager Empress is only angry and afraid because Yan Wanshu's presence kept me from going to pray for her. But copying the Heart Sutra 100 times daily, even an iron arm would give out. I had copied far more sutras than that during my years in the palace. Why had my eldest brother never shown a shred of concern for me? My eldest brother faltered. You are a commandery princess. But Wanshu, that's enough. My father struck the table. As subjects, we do not question the sovereign's will. Father is right. I will go see second brother now. I curtsied and turned to leave. Second brother recovered quickly. His rash faded completely. News from the front courtyard had barely reached him when he urged me not to go to the palace for fear of displeasing the Dowager Empress. I slipped my arm through his. That's exactly why I've come to hide in your courtyard. Second brother. Second brother held a scroll and tapped my forehead with it. His tone uncharacteristically stern. You grew up by the Dowager Empress's side. They say you were raised in gold and jade. But that is the palace after all. You must have suffered more than you let on. I'm a commandery princess. Who would dare give me trouble? Only second brother would dare tap my forehead. I rubbed the spot and complained that he was too rough. I heard you galloped through the streets when I was gravely ill. Second brother said with a smile. When did you learn to ride? I had no idea. A general's daughter picks it up naturally. And this changed handwriting of yours, did you pick that up naturally too? Second brother raised the scroll he was holding. I had been flipping through this book while watching over second brother at night, leaving a brief 2-character annotation in the margin. I had not realized second brother knew my handwriting so well. 2 characters were enough to reveal the difference. I've kept every letter you sent home over the years. When I saw your chicken scratch handwriting, I knew no one in the palace was truly teaching you, truly caring for you. My handwriting had indeed been terrible. When my father first saw it, he lamented that I was too unruly, that even palace tutelage could not teach me proper form. But second brother said he knew, it was because no one had bothered to teach me well. His fingers traced the characters on the page. You never used to like military texts. You didn't know how to ride. And you were not afraid of the dark. You honor. You're keeping something from me. With your brother here, what are you afraid of? No one else had noticed these small changes in me. Only second brother remembered. If I insisted otherwise, he would not press me given his nature. After a long silence, I took the scroll from his hands and spoke, eyes downcast. What if second brother were no longer here? In that future, my father had retired to his hometown with my mother after his old war wounds flared up. Years later, the emperor died. His sons tore the realm apart in bloody succession, and Great Qi crumbled like a collapsing tower. Yan Su returned to southern Yu. A year later, southern Yu's armies advanced. My second brother died in battle, his reinforcements never arriving. Before his body had even grown cold, I was sent away in a marriage alliance, rootless and adrift. It was not until a flower-viewing banquet that I met Princess Yenrong of Southern Yu. Everything changed from that moment on. A teacup crashed against the closed door frame, startling the maids outside. Tea splattered everywhere, leaving a trail of ruin. Through the door, a maidservant asked cautiously, "Your Highness, second young master, do you need?" "No," I said. When silence returned, I saw that second brother had broken the armrest of his chair with his bare hands. Unbelievable. He ground the words out, the veins on the back of his hands still standing out. I told him I had only dreamed it, sharing only the most urgent details. But from his expression, he clearly understood that dream was just a euphemism. I turned to him. "I've had people watching Yan Wanshu all along, but I've found no trace of her having done anything to you. I was injured at the drill grounds. I only fell ill after returning to the manor, and she came with eldest brother to see me. If she was behind it, she must have had help within the household." Second brother pressed his brow, then paused as a thought struck him. "That Yan Su, he'll be arriving in the capital in a few days." In recent years, Southern Yu had been firmly under Great Qi's thumb. The hostages they sent were always insignificant princes, those whose lives and deaths mattered little. Yan Su was born to a palace maid and had grown into a bitter, resentful man, ungrateful and cruel. When a servant brought him tea that was 2 degrees too hot, he had 6 maidservants strangled for it. The Southern Yu emperor, upon hearing of this, sent this neglected son to be a hostage without a second thought. Later, even after Yan Su returned to Southern Yu, he never won his father's favor. The only reason Great Qi was made to send a noblewoman to marry him, a former hostage, was to humiliate the Great Qi imperial house. Second brother's sudden mention of Yan Su made his gaze grow heavy. I said gently, "I've already made arrangements. Second brother need only be a loyal minister and a worthy general." My second brother had a sincere heart. He should not be tainted by schemes and intrigues. It was enough that I alone lived in the shadows. As for Yan Su, I had no intention of letting him return to Southern Yu alive. To cause trouble for Yan Rong, the Dowager Empress's verbal edict put an end to Yan Wanshu's hopes of entering the genealogy. Day after day, she sat copying sutras in the newly established Buddha hall in the inner residence. I had hoped to draw out whoever was helping her, but she proved remarkably patient. She stayed quietly in her place, which only attracted more sympathy. In the height of summer, the princess's youngest daughter, Murong Jin, held a literary gathering at Jishi Garden and sent me an invitation. The princess had born Murong Jin in her late 30s and doted on her like the apple of her eye. Having grown up on the princess's fiefdom, Murong Jin had only recently returned to the capital. Everyone showed her courtesy. Many young men and women from official families attended. Over a dozen blocks of ice were placed throughout Jishi Garden to temper the summer heat. I stood in the shade feeding koi in the pond, the distant sounds of poetry recitations drifting in the air. Footsteps approached from behind, and Wei Lingyou, whom I had not seen in days, appeared by the rockery. The young man had grown taller, stepping through dappled light filtering through willow leaves, the corners of his upturned eyes curving into a pleasing arc. "Yuan Jie, why haven't you come to the palace lately?" I scattered the last of the fish food and replied, "With you keeping the Dowager Empress company, why would I need to go and annoy her?" In terms of kinship, Wei Lingyou was the Dowager Empress's own blood. In terms of proximity, he had moved into Xian Palace and won considerable favor from the Dowager Empress. Even Murongjin had invited him to her gathering. Then I must thank Yuan Jie for having the deputy director of the Astronomical Bureau put in a good word for me. Otherwise, the Dowager Empress might never have remembered there was still such a person as me in the palace. "We're using each other. Thanking me is too formal." I handed Wei Lingyou a pill to suppress the venomous worm. Just then, I heard a man's voice from behind the rockery. "Where's Wang Yuan today? Was she not invited to this gathering?" "Your Excellency, I heard an invitation was sent. Then she probably knows she's unlettered and didn't want to embarrass herself. Willow branches hung low. The voices faded. Wei Lingyou's pupils were dark as a deep pool, but his smile was like a new moon. Yuan Jie. The wind by the pond is strong, your hair has come loose. I avoided his hand as it reached toward my temple. Thank you for the reminder. When I left Shishi Garden, second brother came to pick me up. Morongjin walked with me. She was mid-sentence when second brother rode up from the end of the street. Greetings, County Princess Yongjia. Second brother clasped his hands in salute. I stood between them, sensing a strange tension in the air. For a first meeting, etiquette demanded that Morongjin say rise without delay. I looked at her in puzzlement. She seemed to snap out of a daze and cleared her throat. No need for formalities. I blinked. I could have sworn her voice had not been that gentle a moment ago. The crowd dispersed. Second brother took the reins and reminded me it was time to go home. Just then, a servant came rushing up, gasping for breath as he stopped before Morongjin. County Princess. Third young Master Lu fell into the water and drowned. Morongjin drew a sharp breath and hurried back into Shishi Garden. Second brother watched her retreating figure with curiosity. Third young Master Lu? That self-important ne'er-do-well from the Lu family I've had run-ins with? The same. He was here today. You honor. You didn't. Second brother trailed off. Of course not. He was fine when I left. He had whispered insults behind my back, but I truly had not touched him. Morongjin's figure had vanished from sight. As she and Wei Lingyou passed each other, he was leaving Shishi Garden. I watched Wei Lingyou roll down his sleeves and walk calmly to his carriage. Beside me, second brother marveled. Could it really have been an accident? I turned away and answered. Perhaps. Yensu died on the night of the Mid-Autumn Festival. At the Mid-Autumn Palace banquet, Prince Yu drank too much. He was led away by servants to sober up and happened upon Yensu. Yensu, having been treated with contempt throughout his stay, made a disrespectful remark, enraging Prince Yu, who struck him dead in a fit of rage. A minor plague had been going around, so the palace kept the matter quiet, reporting only that Yensu had died of illness. Prince Yu, found to have lost virtue, was sent away from the capital on a flimsy pretext. I visited the Dowager Empress in the palace and coaxed her into taking her calming medicine at midday. She slept deeply. I sat in the outer hall, selecting medicinal herbs for her sachet. Curtains hung low on all sides. No one dared disturb me. Wei Lingyou, who had come to deliver sutras to the Dowager Empress, stayed by my side, his voice low and unhurried. He told me how he had used others to kill Yensu and then diverted blame to eliminate Prince Yu. At some point, it had become a habit between us. When I sat, he would half kneel before me, looking up slightly as if waiting for my praise. Neither excited nor alarmed, Wei Lingyou gently hooked his finger around mine. Who else does Yuan Jie want me to kill? At the sight of his bright eyes, I paused. These herbs and spices are all calming. I'll make you a sachet too. After all, the first time I had plotted a killing, I had not slept a wink all night. Wei Lingyou glanced down at the plain, light sachet hanging at his waist and replied with a smile. No need. I already have one. My father's old war wounds flared up again, and he put second brother in charge of household affairs. My mother, who had never cared much for such things, raised objections, saying that eldest brother was the firstborn. Second brother ignored her complaints entirely, focusing first on securing his position at court, entrusting the household to me. It was only when second brother injured his arm and my mother came to visit him at night that the fragile calm was broken. I lay with my head down by the bedside, breathing steadily, as I heard my mother lift the covers and push up second brother's sleeve. What was she looking for? The wound? My second brother opened his eyes and grabbed her wrist. The medicinal powder under my mother's nails scattered onto the bed. I sat up straight, a strange clarity washing over me. Of course, it made sense. Hunger, you honor, you. My mother trembled with rage and shook off second brother's hand. You deceived your own mother? If a mother is not benevolent, must her children still be blindly filial? Second brother asked coldly. My mother pointed at him, momentarily speechless. I spoke up. Mother, you would do best to first tell us what this powder truly is. Otherwise, the Buddha hall might catch fire tonight and the person inside might not get out. You. My mother turned to point at me, her face red with fury. You cannot kill her. She is your sister. Your son has always had only one sister, you honor. Second brother's expression was ice cold. The second brother and I had considered many possibilities. Never once had we imagined that Yan Wanshu was my mother's biological daughter. My mother had been the daughter of a merchant family. Before her marriage, she had pledged herself to the son of a household servant, but my father had married her instead. All these years, my father thought his love was reciprocated, that my mother was simply reserved by nature. In truth, she had never felt a thing for him, not even a spark, and by extension, she felt nothing for the children she bore him. With each passing year, my father had grown distant as well. They were only civil to one another. When my grandmother passed away, my mother returned to her hometown to observe a year of mourning. There, she reunited with the man she had loved in her youth, and that was how Yan Wanshu came to be. Yan Wanshu had been born prematurely and was frail from infancy. She grew up with her biological father, and my mother felt both guilt and love for her. After his death, my mother brought her back under the pretense of adopting her as a goddaughter. Yan Wanshu was my half-sister. The revelation was so absurd I almost laughed. Because I refused to accept her, my mother took the powder she provided and used it to poison second brother, so that Yan Wanshu could save him and earn the family's gratitude. In truth, the powder was a toxin. Sprinkled on a wound, it would enter the blood and meridians, causing high fever and a full-body rash, and requiring human blood as an antidote. This time, she and my mother had tried the same trick again, to remind second brother of her life-saving kindness and win her release from the Buddha hall. Cornered, my mother finally lowered her head and begged me not to harm Yan Wanshu. Second brother was the first to recover. And eldest brother? He has feelings for Yan Wanshu, but they're half-siblings too. My mother laughed bitterly. He is only the son of a concubine maid. Back then, your father promised me one wife and one husband for life, so he sent the boy's birth mother away and registered him under my name. My mother wanted eldest brother to manage the household simply because he treated Yan Wanshu sincerely. Everything, it was all for Yan Wanshu. Exposed, my mother asked, "Have you heard enough?" Second brother and I were both silent. She closed her eyes. Blood is thicker than water. If you kill her, if you spread this secret, then I will not live either. My maternal grandfather had fallen ill. My mother decided to return to Liang province to tend to her father. Liang province was scenic and temperate, a fine place to live. Eldest brother and Yan Wanshu would accompany her back. To that end, I secured the Dowager Empress's verbal edict to release Yan Wanshu from the Buddha hall. The Dowager Empress had all but forgotten such a person existed. When she learned Yan Wanshu would be leaving the capital, she gave her permission without a second thought. On the day of departure, second brother and I saw the party off at the city outskirts. Few people traveled this road. Tall trees stood on both sides. My mother lifted the carriage curtain and looked at me, riding beside the vehicle. Wang Yuan, though you are my daughter by birth, I have never been fond of you. Perhaps it's because your eyes are too like your father's, and because you were not raised at my side. I misjudged your nature before. Now, I will simply wait and see how high this kite of yours can fly. Yan Wanshu sat beside her, half hidden in shadow. Without waiting for my reply, my mother let the curtain fall. Moments later, startled birds took flight. The column suddenly halted. Horses whinnied in panic. Assassins in black masks leaped from the trees on either side of the road and attacked the procession en masse. Second brother and I exchanged a glance from opposite sides. As the assassins closed in, arrows flew from the distance, turning the front ranks into pincushions. Second brother's personal guards, clad in armor, arrived and used crossbows to cut down the attackers with precision. The tide turned instantly. Eldest brother, who had been silent the entire journey, drew his sword and pointed it at second brother, his eyes wide with fury. You planned this. You chose this secluded road deliberately, to bait me. An ambush. If you and Yan Wanshu had done nothing, Second brother, and I would have ensured you reached Liang province safely. The bitterness and envy in eldest brother's eyes were harrowing. Wang Heng, spare me your hypocrisy. You just wanted to use grandfather's illness as an excuse to drive mother and me out of the capital, didn't you? What makes you better than me? Why does father trust you more? Why do the troops follow your command? I am the firstborn. I will kill you. The captured assassins knelt on both sides of the road. Seeing the situation hopeless, eldest brother shouted toward the carriage. Sure, come out. I'll get you out of here. The carriage shook. My mother emerged first. Yan Wanshu had a hairpin pressed to my mother's throat, the point already drawing blood. Let us go, or we all die. Yan Wanshu bared her fangs. My mother's face was a mixture of disbelief and pain. Wanshu, how could you be so foolish? To do this with Wang Min? Even in Liang province. I could have ensured a life of ease for you. Shut up. Yan Wanshu dragged my mother back. Her voice shrill. We're both your daughters. She gets to be a commandery princess while I live like a rat in the shadows. You tell me, why? I already claimed you as mine. So what? I just can't stand to see Wang Yuan do well. Since we're both daughters, I will take everything from her. Yan Wanshu had retreated to eldest brother's horse. A thin trickle of blood ran down my mother's neck. Her voice broke. She did well? In the palace. She was nothing but a plaything for nobles. Why won't you believe your mother? See? My mother knew exactly what my life in the palace had been like. She just didn't care. Second brother rode up beside me. I said nothing, but I saw his eyes redden. Mother, don't blame me. I just couldn't bear it, that's why I poisoned my own father and came to you. Yan Wanshu whispered this bloody confession in her ear, then shouted at me, give me another fast horse. Seeing the shock and agony in my mother's eyes at Yan Wanshu's words, I let go of the reins. Fine. Take mine. In the moment Yan Wanshu relaxed, I triggered the mechanism of my sleeve crossbow. A short, sharp bolt shot through the air and buried itself between her brows. Almost simultaneously, second brother hurled his sword with deadly force, slitting eldest brother's throat. I could not tell whose blood had splattered my mother's face. The thud of eldest brother falling from his horse mingled with her scream. She crumpled to the ground, unable to look back at the two bodies behind her. Second brother and I dismounted and walked to her. I knelt and wiped the blood from her face. Mother, blood is thicker than water. Now that Yan Wanshu is dead, do you truly wish to die too? You killed her. Her body and voice shook alike. I did. But I am not so ruthless as to kill my own mother. Whether you live is your choice. Second brother's men were numerous enough. The road was quickly cleaned. The clouds gathered thickly. After tonight's rain, all traces would vanish. I helped my mother back into the carriage myself. Her hands were ice cold and would not warm. Rest assured, mother, second brother is not as cruel as I am. He will see you safely to Liang province and ensure you live out your years in comfort. As for father, I will tell him that you and eldest brother are well in Liang province. Please remember that as well. My mother paused at the carriage door and looked down at me. You dare threaten me? Fine, these are the daughters I have raised. Mother jests. To have good daughters, one must first be a good mother. After drawing a deep breath, my mother shook off my hand and entered the carriage alone. Just before the curtain fell, I looked at her in the dim light. Years of ease and comfort had left no mark of age on her face, though now it was etched with exhaustion. Oh, and mother, you were wrong about one thing. I curved my lips. Your daughter is no kite. The yuan in Wang Yuan means eagle. The curtain fell. The carriage grew distant. On the way back to the city, a mist-like drizzle finally began to fall. Second brother produced an oil paper umbrella from somewhere and held it over my head. Yuaner, I'll go buy you he pastries, he said. News of Yen's death had already reached Southern Yu. As expected, Southern Yu did not retaliate. Instead, they proposed a treaty, 10 years of peace. No more hostages. No more marriage alliances. To secure this treaty and retrieve Yen's coffin, Southern Yu dispatched an embassy. The terms were reasonable. Peace was a good thing. News of the treaty spread quickly. Second brother was among the first courtiers to see the treaty's contents. When he told me about it at home, I asked about something else. Second brother, do you know who the envoys from Southern Yu will be? My heart pounded like a drum. Nothing is confirmed yet. I heard the second princess of Southern Yu will lead the embassy, and she will definitely come. It's the first time Southern Yu has sent a woman as an envoy. I unconsciously clenched my hands. She was coming. She was coming. Winter always arrived early in the great Qi capital, and it was exceptionally cold. Words seemed to freeze the moment they left your mouth. The Southern Yu embassy arrived in the deepest cold. The treaty was signed with unusual ease. The emperor hosted a banquet in the palace to honor the envoys. Second brother and I attended together. Outside the hall, the wind howled. Inside, it was warm as spring. My seat was diagonally across from Lingyou's. The emperor visited the Dowager Empress frequently and inevitably encountered Lingyou. Lingyou played the devoted grandson to perfection. The emperor, still reeling from Prince Yu's accidental killing of Yen Su, found some consolation in him and began to show favor to the grandson he had ignored for over a decade. Lingyou propped his chin on his hand. Our eyes met briefly across the hall. When he showed no intention of looking away, I took my seat and pretended not to see him. When the Southern Yu envoys entered, I spotted the tall woman at the head immediately, the second princess of Southern Yu, Yen Rong. She was sharp and dashing, radiant as the midday sun. My heart beat faster. I gripped my sleeves without thinking. Half a step behind Yen Rong walked a man like green bamboo, slender, upright, with an air of scholarly refinement. But I knew he had a frame of cast bronze beneath that gentle exterior. The arrival of Yen Rong's party silenced the hall for a moment. After taking her seat, Yen Rong swept her gaze across the room and fixed it on me. We looked at each other. Words could not say enough. She raised her cup and drank. I raised mine and drank. This toast was to nothing else, only to our reunion. Snow fell at night. Not heavily, beautiful under the silver moonlight. After the banquet, I returned home and opened the west-facing window, placing a candle on the sill. About half an hour later, someone walked across the roof tiles through the snow, slipped through the window, picked up the shears nearby, and trimmed the wick. So you still remember. Yen Rong set down the shears, her features softened by the candlelight. I smiled, vision blurring with tears. Leave a candle at the west window, so we may meet again. I will never forget. Yen Rong smiled too, her eyes wet. When news of Yen Su's death reached us, I suspected you had come back too. Quick and ruthless. The no marriage alliance clause, was that your addition? I pushed the treaty through, and that clause was mine too. Great Qi hasn't fallen yet. Your second brother is on the rise, and Southern Yu is short on troops. You know as well as I do that Yen Su's death was no great loss to my father. The treaty is what matters. Yen Rong answered calmly, adding, I spent 6 months eliminating Situ Xiu and absorbing the Situ family's power. 2 months ago, my father allowed me to participate in state affairs. Quick and ruthless yourself. If we're given a second life, what's the point of hesitating or clinging to old attachments? Yen Rong lifted her chin. Yen Rong was the only daughter of the Southern Yu Empress. In my past life, when I was sent to Southern Yu for the marriage, she was locked in a power struggle with the Crown Prince. The Crown Prince was pro-war. Yen Su, cowardly and unscrupulous, knowing he would never ascend the throne, threw his lot in with the prince and became his dog. He killed without hesitation, plotting countless schemes against Yen Rong. After I met Yen Rong, we worked together from within and without to eliminate Yen Su. I established myself in Southern Yu as a descendant of the sixth prince and planted agents within the Crown Prince's camp. She belongs to the wide world. Nowhere would be strange for her. We walked in opposite directions, swallowed by the bustling crowd. Tomorrow was not a rest day. To make that page of history bolder, I would be busy again.